Hi there. We're down here in Alan Kelly's house in Bandon, Oregon. And Alan has agreed to be in this film that I'm going to send to the anniversary of Remagen, which is going to be in Germany, and also published to the University of California System History Archives. So this is Alan right here next to me. And Alan is 83 years old, and he is a veteran of World War II. And he told me today that only 10% of the people who fought in World War II for America are still alive. Is that right, Alan? Only 10% of the people who fought in World War II are still alive?
Roughly.
Roughly. So you're in that 10%.
Yeah.
And so this makes you very interesting for history because as I've told my daughter a lot of times, I don't know if you can zoom in on this.
Okay.
Can you zoom in on it? You should be able to.
Yeah.
This is a map of Germany in the area of Remagen. This is a famous battle place for World War II, and it involved American soldiers, one of whom was Mr. Kelly, who were taken to Germany and had to do some very dramatic war and soldier activity in order to attempt to overthrow Hitler. So, did you zoom in on it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so now, this is what we're going to be talking about, and Alan's going to be really telling the story. This is just the introduction, and I'll be asking him questions, and it's all impromptu, and my daughter, Naomi Hansen, is filming this, and she's a graduate of Humboldt State University in International Business. And I'm a graduate of UC Santa Cruz, 1983, in basically history and social sciences with a major in Iranian Islamic history, basically, you would say. So, I'm going to start out, Alan, by letting you just start. We know there's a lot we're going to talk about in the different episodes of this film, but this one, because of my daughter being here and it being Christmas, this is Christmas 2009, everybody. We're going to just try to cover your experiences starting when you were taken to where you went into Remagen, because we can't cover everything, you know. So, if you want to just start telling, we already know that you were drafted into World War II. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. And so, how old were you?
18.
18, and you
Just
were
18.
you were basically a high school graduate from Michigan. From
Yes.
What town in Michigan was it?
Detroit.
Detroit. So suddenly you got a letter in the mail one day. What year was that you were drafted?
1944.
Okay, so we're going back in history to the year 1944. Alan is an 18-year-old guy. He's got his whole life ahead of him, and suddenly we have a world war going on. And so, first thing that happens, he gets that draft letter. So, we're not going to go into all of that, though, right now. We're going to take you up to where Alan is in the Army, right? Army? Were you in the Army?
Infantry.
Okay, and what brigade or infantry, what was the identification of your unit?
It was the 9th Infantry Division, 47th Regiment, G Company.
G Company.
That's
And
a line company,
uh-huh.
meaning you're on the line and everybody else is in backing.
Oh,
And,
so you were up front.
yeah, where the enemy is.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So, you came into Europe. Where did you land in Europe?
Landed at Le Havre, France.
You landed
Or if
in...
you want to consider England part of Europe, I landed in Liverpool.
You landed by airplane in Liverpool?
No,
Ship? Okay, you arrived by ship in Liverpool, England, and then you took a ship to
Well,
France?
I took a train across England
You took a train across
to
England
Southampton,
to Southampton.
got on another ship, and went to Le Havre.
And then, from Le Havre, how did you then manage to make it to be up to the German border?
Well, you didn't go in any deluxe accommodations. They were mostly just but the poor people have to ride in.
Like
And the train,
trains, the
From
American
Havre.
soldiers were on French trains?
it was a French train.
Okay, that took you to where?
Took me to Viviers, Belgium,
Viviers, Belgium.
and that was a main repel-depel. That's short for replacement, something, I forget.
So then you were like stayed in Belgium, what, how long before you?
Oh, I think it was probably 3 nights.
And then what did they do? Come and tell you now you're going to Germany, or now you're
Yeah.
gonna go be real soldiers, or what?
Yeah, they just say, well, you've been assigned to G Company, 47th Regiment, 9th Infantry Division.
And you guys are going.
And we got up to the front on a truck, trucks.
They took you up to the front on a truck.
And then you meet the other soldiers, and they're glad to see you.
So you're gonna be helping them, and so what was the first main thing you were gonna do when you went into Germany?
Pardon?
Did they tell you, what the main first thing you were gonna be doing was gonna be, or
Well,
did you just have to guess from day to day?
No, because that's all a little bit hush-hush.
So,
The officers, they don't especially want you to know what the hell you're going to do.
okay, so they just wake you up in the morning and say, get in a truck or whatever?
Yeah.
So, let's get then right to when you, this map here that shows this battle, this famous battle of Remagen, Germany.
And let me just say that the name of the bridge was the Ludendorff Railroad Bridge. It
So,
was named after a World War I German general.
so how did you get to there? How did you get to
We
Ludendorff?
got there by truck.
They brought you
we-
right by truck to the Ludendorff Bridge.
We were about 80 miles away in quite a famous German town. The name of it escapes me right now, but it was a fairly large. We were on the outskirts of yeah, I can find the map.
Well, okay.
And,
Zenzig or Kripp or,
No, it was, well, I'd have to look on the map.
it doesn't matter. But the events are more important than the name of
But
the town.
anyway, we didn't know where we were going. We traveled all night long, and we arrived at Remagen at daybreak,
Okay, the town of Remagen,
the town of Remagen.
which is near the Ludendorff Bridge.
Which is, well, now wait, we were on the safe side of the bridge, and we had to cross over the Rhine, and it had been shelled and bombed, and it was in very poor shape, but it still was standing. And a German major who was in charge of blowing the bridge didn't blow it. I think he was court-martialed by Hitler himself, but I never worried about that part. And and on the other side of the bridge there was a tunnel, and the bridge led directly into this tunnel. And inside the tunnel were German shells. Whatever.
Now, so you were walking across the bridge?
Walking, running, any way I could get across
So,
that.
where did they let you off? Right at the bridge?
Hmm?
Where did you get off the truck at?
Oh, maybe a couple blocks from the bridge.
So, all these trucks arrive and all these American soldiers with all their gear and guns,
Yeah.
and you get out and they say, and your general or your leader goes, go that way or whatever.
We didn't know where we were.
So they said to you, do what?
They just said, that's a bridge, that's a river, you're gonna walk across that bridge and get to the other side without being shot.
And then what were you gonna do after you get across the bridge?
And then on the other side of the bridge, we had, there was a town called Erpel.
Yeah, I see that on the
See
map.
that?
Yeah.
And it was a very steep hill. And we had to walk up that hill, and we went into Erpel. Now, we weren't the first to cross. 9th Armored Division crossed, but they only, they didn't attempt to go any further until we came along.
So at the time, though, you really didn't know everything. You know a lot more now than you did at the time. So
Didn't know where I was or
So-
what.
I don't. Most of the viewers and all that. Okay. Okay, we're back here with. We were just as the American soldiers burst across the bridge, and but with the knowledge you have now, Alan, as opposed to what you knew then, what was the significance of this? What was the significance of you guys getting across this bridge and into Germany?
Well,
What did it mean?
This was the first time infantry foot troops crossed the Rhine since Napoleon.
So everybody that's watching this film, you should all know that Alan's memories of World War II are extremely emotional. And once in a while we're going to have one of these little things where we all start crying and all this because we all know this is very dramatic. So the gist I'm getting out of this is probably the first time in the history of the world that an American soldier attacked Germany and walked across the bridge, right? And it's the first time since Napoleon that any army got into Germany.
That was the French army, of course. under
That was the
Napoleon.
French army. They got across there once.
Yeah.
You guys, now you were the next only ones in history to do this. So, how many people, I mean, did you watch people get killed and you said they were firing at you and stuff? Did people die?
Well, I watched one guy right in front of me take a machine gun bullet, at least I thought it was a machine gun bullet, and he fell through a hole in the bridge into the Rhine River, and that was the last time we ever saw him.
So, we don't know what happened to him.
So it was very dangerous because the bridge had been bombed and shelled very often, and now there were big holes everywhere in the bridge, and it was very easy to just step through one of those holes and you were gone.
So, where did you spend the next night? Where did you sleep the next night?
Pardon?
That night. The day this happened, where did you sleep that night? Where?
We slept where we always slept, outdoors on the ground. It was March the 8th, and it was cold. We'd get boughs off of pine trees and put them on the ground, and that was our mattress, and we spread out our, what was called a poncho. You wore it, or you slept on it, or you used it for anything you needed. And then we had one blanket and a certain kind of sack. Can I use a descriptive word, what everybody called her?
What?
It was called a fart sack.
So,
It's zippered up.
once in a while you can pan over to me when I'm talking. So now you're seeing, well, it all sounded real simple, you know. Some soldiers got out of a truck and ran across a bridge. No, it wasn't quite like that. First of all, these guys were carrying everything they needed on their backs, plus their guns, their heavy boots, etc. They had never in their whole lives thought they were going to be, you know, in a war. Probably, was this the first battle you were in?
No, but it was the biggest.
It was the biggest.
Yeah.
So, then just what really happened in the next few days? You know, what went on? What were some interesting stories or anything that went on right after this? Right after you got across the bridge?
Well, I told you we landed in a town called Erpel, and then when night comes, partner. You always have a partner. If there's enough men to have two to a hole, we dig a foxhole. And we share this hole together. And my partner was Joseph P. Killen, wonderful man.
The guy that still calls you?
Oh yeah,
You still know him?
oh, I think he's the greatest guy.
Okay, audience, this is very interesting. I know Alan pretty good, and this is a guy that still calls him all the time, and I hear him say stuff like, yeah, we're the last ones left and all that. And recently there was a TV series that included this part of the war, and we suddenly saw it on the History Channel, and on that night you spoke to him, didn't you? Or you speaking to someone else who knew about that? Because you were telling someone that we were on, our thing was on TV and all that. So, so actually, Alan, though, knowing what you know now, and we're not finished with the story about this, but I want to ask one more question. How many people in your unit were killed with what you know now?
At this one
Battle,
battle,
yeah.
I'd have to guess, but I'd say probably 100.
100.
See,
And
the Germans were trying to drive us back into the Rhine River.
so when you guys get across the bridge and when the soldiers get in, do they bring ambulances and doctors and stuff too? Or
Well, that's usually just a couple of guys with a stretcher.
so where
And
did they have painkillers or?
they had morphine, yeah.
So was that a big fear to you? Am I going to get wounded or sick, and who's going to take care of me? You know.
Well, first let me tell you that my partner, Joe Killen, got his head up out of the hole to look around, and at that time, an 88, which is a German artillery piece, a shell landed very close to it, and a piece of this shell went through his steel helmet into his head, and I took one look at that and I thought, I'll never see him again. But I did.
And he's still alive today too. You know.
Right. And he was screaming and asking me to take his helmet off, and I said, Joe, if I take your helmet off, I'm going to pull out some of your brains. I said, you don't want that? And then they came and took him away, and I thought I'd never see him again. He
Okay.
recovered.
So this was going on. Did this go on while you were trying to sleep?
No, this was during the day.
That was. Camped that night. Was there any firing at you in the night or anything?
Oh, all night long.
All night long.
Yeah.
Other people were fighting and you were sleeping maybe, or what?
Well, you don't sleep very well during a barrage, but you might catch a few minutes, you know.
Okay. So then when did they tell you what you're going to do next? How did they organize you after that, or where did you go?
They didn't know what they were going to do next. It was, at one point we were told we were completely surrounded and we'd probably be captured, but they didn't know. And they said, throw away all your German money, all your souvenirs, any kind of daggers or pistols or anything, because they would be very difficult with you if they found that on
Right.
your person.
Right. So you didn't camp out forever though. Finally they gave you some kind of help.
They got to us finally, but it took about 3 days. And during that time we had very little to eat. We'd drink just the water laying on the ground, or whatever we could get. And we figured we'd be in, you know, some kind of a German Stalag or something.
Pretty soon, yeah.
But it never got to that. But,
Because then the next thing was, what was your next orders, or what was the next thing that happened?
well, the rest of regiment arrived to give us some relief. Just how many days or what, I don't remember. It was all very, well, I mean, there was still constant artillery fire, but we didn't come close to any Germans any longer. They pulled back, I guess. But we at one time could hear them speaking German, so we knew there were men out there.
You could hear them sort of somewhere speaking
were-
German.
Not very far away.
So where was this place where you, where you slept in an old concentration camp or something? Where was that?
Oh, that was after the war.
That was after the war was over?
Yeah.
So.
But we did freeze a lot of Polish.
What did you get the Purple Heart for?
Mhm.
What was the reason you,
Well, we came upon a concentration camp called Nordhausen, and there were these poor people, DPs, displaced persons, all types of people in terrible condition, just skin and bones. Some of them have been there for quite a while, and some were later arrivals. But we opened the gates, and we didn't know what to expect, but the ones that could walk or run headed right for the bakery. They apparently knew where it was, and removed,
Now that was after the war or before the war?
this is during the war.
Okay,
I just
okay.
throwing this in.
Yeah, so you went around Germany quite a bit in between the Remagen and the end of the war.
Well, yeah, the crossing of the bridge was March the 8th, and the end of the war was May the 8th,
So this was all in 1945,
45.
March 8th, 1945, you entered Germany, and then the war was over by May, only a few
May
months
the 8th.
later.
Yeah.
Okay,
And by the way, General MacArthur gave us a unit citation, and he said that our crossing that bridge probably ended the war in Europe by 6 months.
very good.
That's how important it is.
And I didn't let you finish how you got the Purple Heart. How was that?
Yeah, this is the medal. This isn't the medal, this is what you wear
If you have
on
a
your jacket or whatever. That's Purple Heart. And the medal itself, if you want, I'll get it out. But very beautiful medal. And that happened later on in the war. I don't remember the name of the town, but it was between the bridge and Berlin somewhere. And we went on a patrol at night, and along the sides of the road there were German soldiers who let us get into where we were going to look for problems. And then on the way back, they knew just how many of us there were, and they started firing. And we were riding in the back of a vehicle called a half-track. It had tracks in the back and wheels in the front. It's half track and half wheels, steering wheels. And they fired at us from both sides of the road. And one of the pieces of equipment they had was called a Panzerfaust. And a Panzer is a tank, of course. And this was made to knock out tanks and half-tracks or whatever. And it exploded right almost in my face, and little pieces of it ended in my hand, my arm, somewhere up here, and one under my eye. Now these were just sheet metal, so it wasn't like getting a big piece of artillery shell, but they cut you, you know, and so I had the medic take them out and put on a little bandage, and that was how I got the purple heart.
Well, that's good, but that's not really how you got it for everything you did, just even being there, doing that, you know, that's not for that one little thing, you know, it's for a lot more than that. Well, I guess we can finish this first episode of the Alan Kelley war history of World War II, and thanks a lot, Alan.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, good night.